Hello, konnichiwa, marhaba. If we haven't met before, I'm Speedo and welcome to my channel. Today I will answer the question, should you buy Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War? I will discuss what is great about the game, what is terrible about the game, and then tell you whether you should buy the game or not. There are timestamps in the video description so you can use them for your convenience. Also, if you constantly need help with purchasing decisions in the gaming world and you want to hear me talk about other gaming related stuff, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's start with what is great about the game, which, spoilers, there isn't much to talk about. So let's start with general good things about the game, which is one thing only, which is the FOV slider for consoles. So as you can see here, I can increase or decrease the FOV. I know that it's not groundbreaking if you're a PC player because I think it's been there for like forever, but it's nice to finally have it on console. Now let's move on to the campaign. So there isn't much to say. It is your typical Call of Duty campaign that you would expect from every other Call of Duty. It's just in a different setting, which is the Cold War. So if you were expecting something fresh out of the campaign, there isn't much special here. It's also worth mentioning that I will not spoil anything here if you are planning on playing this crappy campaign. One good thing about the campaign is there's one mission where you can choose to do it however you want, but that's only one mission, so I wouldn't say that the campaign is good based on that one mission alone, but it's something that I haven't seen before in a Call of Duty game. Another thing that is good about the campaign is that throughout the campaign there are lots of gimmicky arcade games which isn't really innovative, but they're interesting to have. These are the only two highlights that are on top of my head right now, and everything else is, as I said, your average campaign missions that you would expect from every other Call of Duty game. Now let's move on to multiplayer. The first good thing about the multiplayer is that it's not tailored for campers. So there are no doors, claymores, mounting weapons, loud footsteps, which was a huge problem from Modern Warfare 2019. I mean, look at this.
It's okay, I'm still kidding.
You're literally camping, sitting on top of something, on a freaking control room with a claymore and a freaking...
Does anyone else find camping kill cams extremely funny? I mean, it's funny to watch, but it's not fun when you're getting killed by a camper. So anyway, the overall gameplay is tailored towards rushers, which is awesome. The class customization is much more clear than Modern Warfare 2019, with clear numbers telling you exactly how each attachment is improving your weapon, instead of your typical increases ADS speed or increases mobility. In Black Ops Cold War, it tells you exactly how much is something increased or decreased. So with Black Ops Cold War, you don't have to watch a YouTube video telling you which attachment is better than the other, because usually you would have two attachments that claim to do the same thing, but you would have to watch a YouTube video to determine which one is better. The last good thing about the multiplayer is there's too much to grind for. At the moment, there's like, I don't know how many prestiges that are offered with each season, and you can go up to level 200 or something, which is really crazy for me at least. There's also weapon camos that you can grind for. I'm not the biggest grinder in the world, but I know that lots of people love grinding all day, if you know what I mean. Now let's move on to zombies. Zombies is extremely good. It definitely exceeded my expectations, and that is the only thing that is keeping me playing the game right now. So the first good thing about zombies is that your progression counts. So things like leveling up your weapons, your overall rank, and the battle pass, all of these are affected by playing zombies. So that way you will not feel like you're wasting your time by playing zombies, unlike in previous games. I actually got to Prestige 1 by mostly playing zombies, and I have some weapons at max level just by playing zombies, and all of that is reflected in multiplayer and even Warzone. The second good thing is there's too much to grind for, just like multiplayer. There are camos that you can only unlock by playing zombies. You can also use these camos in multiplayer, so you don't feel like you're wasting your time. The only disappointing thing is that you can't use zombies camos in Warzone, which is very disappointing. The last good thing about zombies is Dead Ops Arcade 3, which plays identically to previous versions of Dead Ops Arcade, so there isn't much to talk about. But it's fun to play and it adds to the overall experience of zombies. That sums up the list of quote-unquote great things about Black Ops Cold War. Now let's talk about the terrible things, which are a lot. I tried to be not so nitpicky because I don't want this video to be an hour long, so I'll focus on the main things. Let's start with the general things. The first thing I want to mention is that there are bugs everywhere, crashes everywhere. It is so bad, it is breaking some consoles. There's also an obvious lack of polish and attention to details. I mean, the game is barely finished, so I wouldn't expect any type of polishing. The second thing I want to mention is that the graphics, sounds, and animations are a huge downgrade from Modern Warfare 2019. So remember how everyone praised how Modern Warfare 2019 looks, sounds, and feels? Yeah, all of that is gone in this game, which is really disappointing considering that this game is supposed to be improving on last year's game, which it did in some aspects, but left some of the good things behind as well, including the good graphics, sounds, and animations. Also, the game has very limited content everywhere, even with the Season 1 update. I talked about this in another video, which I'll link in the video description, but in a nutshell, Black Ops Cold War with the Season 1 update has a total of 18 maps, while Modern Warfare 2019 on launch had a total of 22 maps. This isn't only multiplayer. The lack of content is everywhere. There's only one zombies map, even with the Season 1 update, and the campaign is too short. The last general problem I want to talk about is that the normal version of the game is not the cross-generation version. This is very important for console players because we are currently in a transition period to the next generation of consoles. So if you want to get the cross-generation version, you will have to pay for it. Now let's talk about the campaign, which I have a lot to talk about. So first thing, there are only 3 endings to the campaign, which may sound like a lot, but compared to the last game that had multiple endings, which is Black Ops 2, it's really pathetic because Black Ops 2 had 8 endings. That's right, everyone. A game from 2012 has more endings than a game from 2020. And not only that, the choices that you do throughout the game don't affect the ending. The ending is only affected by one choice that you do at the end of the game. So you might as well just ask the player which ending do you want. I remember in BO2 there were tutorials on how to get the best ending because your choices throughout the game affected the ending. For this game, there's no need for a tutorial because the ending is determined by one choice only. Another problem that I have is that you barely play with the returning characters. So let me ask you a question. Who is the first character that comes into your head when I say Black Ops? Well, if you thought Mason, Woods, or Hudson, then you are right. And being a Black Ops game, a huge percentage of the story or gameplay should include these characters, right? Wrong. There are maybe 2 or 3 main missions that you get to play with Woods and Mason. The rest is played by a silent protagonist called Bell, which is just ugh. So the point here, don't buy the game expecting to see your favorite characters in the campaign. Another problem that I have is that the game barely represents what the trailer said. Remember how Cold War was revealed in Warzone? Let me remind you.
Understand what's going on around you. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself.
Not done, soldier! Kill or be killed!
It's a long way to the safe. Let's get moving.
Remember how he was talking about a slow process that they call active measures?
It's a slow process, which we call active measures.
Remember the 4 stages: demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization? It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
And this is what will happen if you allow all the schmucks to put a big brother government who will promise lots of things, never mind the promises are fulfilled or not, and all that crap.
This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfilled or not.
Yeah, none of that was in the campaign. None. This is very similar to Black Ops 3. Remember the teaser trailer, the Ember tease, that had nothing to do with the game whatsoever? This is a bit better, but it's still terrible. So the last problem that I have is that the campaign is short. You can complete this game in 2 hours if you wanted to, but I would think it would take an average of 3 to 4 hours for an average player. 3 to 4 hours doesn't sound bad for a COD campaign, but it's 3 to 4 hours of a bad campaign. So that's the problem here. Now let's move on to multiplayer. So the biggest problem in multiplayer is skill-based matchmaking, also known as SBMM for short. So even though the multiplayer plays extremely well, it is completely ruined by the strict SBMM. And I say strict SBMM because I played Modern Warfare 2019 for an entire year and it was not as bad as Black Ops Cold War. There are lots of videos on YouTube that talk about SBMM, so I'll just move on to the next point. So the second problem I have is with hit detection. Hit detection is purely random, which translates into completely random gunfights. Sometimes you would shoot at somebody and they would die immediately, which can be good for you, but at the same time, the same thing happens to you as well, where you would literally spray an entire mag into someone's back and that person would not die, turn around and kill you in 2 shots. There are some YouTubers who are talking about this in more detail and there's some patent of some sort. You can look it up if you want to, but the bottom line is the hit detection is a mess. The last thing I want to talk about is the limited content. So even with the Season 1 update, there are only 18 maps that you can play. 2 of these maps are remastered maps, which is good, but it also means that there are only 16 original maps in this game. So the content is extremely limited. Now let's move on to zombies. So as I said, zombies is pretty good, but there are 2 main problems that I have. The first problem that I have is that there's this exclusive mode called Zombies Onslaught, and it is exclusive for PlayStation players. The exclusivity by itself is its own problem, but the other problem is that this mode is not as good as everyone thinks. The second problem I have is limited content. There is only 1 zombies map. This is very disappointing because every Black Ops game, except for Black Ops 2, came with at least 2 zombies maps. So as I said, content is very limited in this game. So I covered the list of the great things and the terrible things. Everything else is just middle of the road decent, nothing spectacular. Things like music, replayability, controls, and overall gameplay. So in summary, the game mostly offers terrible things that overshadow the small amounts of great things that are in the game. The campaign is terribly disappointing. The multiplayer has good gameplay but completely ruined by skill-based matchmaking. The zombies mode is extremely good, but there's only 1 map at the moment. So with this summary in mind, let's go back to the question, should you buy Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War? I think the answer is very clear, and the answer is no. You should not buy Black Ops Cold War unless you want to play zombies. If you are a fan of zombies, I can almost guarantee that you will enjoy this game. Otherwise, if you want to buy the game for campaign or multiplayer, I can recommend that you get Modern Warfare 2019, because the campaign in that game is simply the best Call of Duty campaign I have ever played. And the multiplayer doesn't have a strict skill-based matchmaking like Black Ops Cold War. It's important to note that this video was uploaded in early 2021, so everything I said is relevant until that point. If they end up fixing everything, which I highly doubt, I think I might do an updated video. And as I said, I didn't want to be so nitpicky, so I might have skipped some small things. It is also important to note that this is 100% based on my opinion. That is why I would like to know in the comments if you agree or disagree with what I said. or you might even have some more points that you would like to add. I read every single comment that you guys leave, so make sure you leave a comment. If you're not the type of guy that leaves comments, click on one of the videos on the screen right now. If you're interested in some merch, you can visit my store linked in the description. I also have a Patreon. If you want to support the channel, you can find the link in the video description. So until next time, peace.